Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Struggling with weight loss? Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet is a clinically developed nutrition program designed to promote fat loss while protecting lean body mass. Developed at USC's Longevity Institute, it assists the body in entering a fasting-like state that helps reset metabolism and target visceral fat. In just 5 days, Prolon offers a science-backed approach to weight loss without extreme restriction or guesswork. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/now.
I'm JJ Virgin, PhD dropout, sorry mom, turned 4-time New York Times bestselling author. I'm a certified nutrition specialist, fitness Hall of Famer, and I speak at health conferences and trainings around the globe. But I'm driven, most of all, by my insatiable curiosity and love of science to keep asking questions, digging for answers, and sharing the information that I uncover with as many people as I can. And that's where you come in. That's why I created the Well Beyond 40 podcast to synthesize and simplify the science of health into actionable strategies to help you thrive. In each episode, we'll talk about what's working in the world of wellness, from personalized nutrition and healing your metabolism to powerful aging and prescriptive fitness. Join me on the journey to better health so you can love how you look and feel right now and have the energy to play full out at 100. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at subscribetojj.com to start unlocking your healthiest, most energetic self. Want to listen to this show ad-free? Head over to subscribetojj.com and start your ad-free experience today. Hey, JJ here. Today we are going to go into gut health, dig into it a little bit, dive deep into it. We haven't done that in, quite a long time. So I thought, it's time to start talking about small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, leaky gut, parasites, and I have a great guest with me today. It's Hannah Aylward, and she is a functional gut health practitioner and got into the business, which I would assume so many people who get into the gut health space because they got gut problems. And she was similar to that, dug in deep, and now has an entire business with lots of gut practitioners working with her to help people figure out the root cause of the root cause. So quite often we talk in functional medicine about finding the root cause for something, but quite often in the gut health space, we still kind of skim the surface. So we're going to talk about what kind of lab testing you can do to really figure out what's going on, how awesome a stool test is. I just did a stool test with Vibrant Wellness and Vibrant Labs rather, and it was fantastic. And some of the things that you can do to heal your gut, things to look out for. She also has a great quiz that I will be sharing at jjvirgin.com/Hannah, HANNAH, that will help you kind of identify what could potentially be the problem. So I will be right back with Hannah and to go into gut health and explore a lot of different issues, everything from microbiome diversity to oxalates and histamine intolerance. So stay with me.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's OmniShade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.
Hannah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive in.
Me too. You know, it's interesting because I kind of spent years just talking about gut, and then I just stopped talking about gut. So I'm excited to bring it back to Well Beyond 40 because we haven't really dug into gut issues for a while. First, I'd love to just know how you got interested in them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I think a lot of us get into this work because we had our own issues, and I am in that category as well. So I was someone who was really struggling with chronic bloating, looking 6 months pregnant after eating an apple or a salad. I was eating very healthy. I was eating a very clean diet, and I was exercising. I've been into health for as long as I can remember. But I was still really struggling. And then I was dealing with constipation and lots of different food reactions, and things just weren't really making sense. I was young, I was active, I was healthy, and things were not really lining up. And I did all of the elimination diets, and I did all of the things, and it would make me it would help me get a little bit better. And then I would kind of fall back again. And so finally I just kind of started digging into the gut environment and the gut microbiome and digestion as a whole, really realizing that there's so much more to the topic and conversation other than just the food that we're eating. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's kind of endless, honestly. And I think the part that people miss with elimination diets is the other side of the elimination diet is actually healing,
Yes.
healing the gut. It's you got to do both of those things. When I was in college, I still remember, because I was teaching aerobics, dating myself, in the 80s. And I remember I was walking back from teaching aerobics in a workout outfit, and some woman stopped me. I was cutting through a department store and stopped me and asked me how many months pregnant I was. So I understand that feeling. I was like, whoa.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. A lot of our clients say that, it's sometimes they wake up bloated, or by the time they go, the day progresses, they have to unbutton their pants at the end of the day. And I know it. And, the bloating is uncomfortable, but it's everything that comes along with that, canceling dinner plans and being afraid to travel. And if someone asking you how many months pregnant you are, that really starts to leave its mark.
Well, I'm kind of trying to think, because, we do get into things because of our own stories, but it's it feels like gut problems are so prevalent, right? And more so now than ever. So what do you think is going on?
Oh gosh, I feel like I could talk about this for 3 hours, just this. I think so many things. I think, of course, our diet plays a role, and we'll see some patterns. What's interesting is we run a lot of functional stool testing with our clients, and we'll see patterns in people. And one of them is a decrease in bacterial diversity. And that can kind of reflect the restrictive diets, or really, maybe not restrictive, maybe that's not the right word, but more so the diets of the same 5 foods, right? We used to have all of this diversity in the diet naturally, and we have much less of that now. I also think chronic stress. I mean, if there's one thing to kind of get a handle on, it's that. And stress, I think, can be put in a lot of different buckets. I like to kind of section them out so people can better understand. So we've got physical stressors, overtraining, underfueling, right? Blood sugar dysregulation, nutrient deficiencies. And then we've got mental and emotional stressors, being on your phone all the time, in between, running from meeting to meeting, kind of just the chronic stress that we're all dealing with, the hyper connectivity that we experience today too. We're always on, and I can check my email in my bed at 11 p.m. This kind of
I hope you're not.
I know. I am very much in process here. And then the environmental stressors. So things like mold exposure and heavy metals and chemicals and things in our water and our air. So I think stress overall is contributing to some of these chronic digestive issues. And then you've got antibiotic use and medication use and birth control use and all of that.
Yeah, just to frost the cake.
Yes.
And it does seem, I don't know if we are just getting better at identifying mold, because it just feels like it's such a big problem. Obviously, a lot of these other toxins are kind of new in the last couple decades, but mold, it just feels like it's everywhere.
Yeah, totally. It was part of my story and I had no idea. I mean, I knew all about healthy eating and I knew all of that kind of stuff, and I was living in mold and I didn't know. And that was part of what was kind of playing a role in my story. And I felt like I had this like layer of like inflammatory weight I couldn't lose. And my face was like, it almost looked like I was taking a steroid. Like if you look at my face now versus then, my eyes were sunken in, my face was kind of all puffy, and my digestion, I mean, I was having like crazy reactions even to all of these healthy food. So I agree. I could really get up on my soapbox here about mold, but I do think it's a huge underlying root cause to like a lot of chronic symptoms that we can't really get a grasp on.
Yeah, one of the first things I was taught about looking at food sensitivity testing was when you had this hyperreactivity, it wasn't the foods.
Yes.
It was, why are you reacting so much? What are the underlying toxins? But I will tell you, like when I started down all this path like 25 years ago, there was very little being taught about mold. I remember being in one mycotoxin lecture and everyone was like, oh my gosh. And now I live in Florida. I used to think I was safe living in Palm Springs, and I found out, no, you're not. But it's like, where would you possibly be that you could be free from mold? I can't think of a place.
I know. It's really hard. I'm from Florida, and so there's a lot of mold in Florida. I'm like born and raised there.
Not be,
Yeah, the humidity there, and then like the hurricane damage. I mean, my goodness. So I don't think you can escape it all, right? I think it's more so like supporting your body's detox systems and maintaining like strength and health and minimizing stress as your baseline. And then just making sure we're not getting too much exposure, through like leaks, like water damaged buildings. Always check your HVAC, especially in a place like Florida where there's just like, the condensation is building on the HVAC. I was living in a place with a brand new HVAC. They were like, it couldn't possibly be the HVAC. We just replaced it. And then I opened up the closet and it was growing all.
Oh no.
I know. But it's because it was so hot. Like Florida gets so hot, and then it's the AC system's like pumping out like on overload, and then it just grew on top of the HVAC, and then at that point it's being pushed through your whole house. So I try to find the line of like empowering people and educating them, but not like just having people be afraid of every single thing, because it's easy to be. Yeah.
Well, as far as the mold thing, I'm trying to remember the name of this kit that we did, because it was a different type of mold. Like I've done a bunch of mold tests in the house. I'll find it for the show notes, but it was a pretty interesting dust kit that we did all throughout the house to look. So far safe in Florida, which is amazing.
That's great. It may have been the ERMI, ERMI. Was that the one?
No, that was not it.
Okay.
I'll find it. Pretty sure it was called the dust. It might have been called the dust test.
Yeah.
Something unique like that. Anyhow, all right. So someone comes in. Like, I'd love to just kind of walk through how someone would look at this. Someone's got, and here's the other challenge with GI issues is so often we're not connecting those dots. Like some of the obvious things like gas and bloating or constipation or diarrhea. Oh, but you may not connect the dots between your joint pain or your skin issues. First of all, before we go into like how you would look at all of this, what are some of the different things that a gut problem can cause beyond the obvious gut symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, you're right on the money there. Essentially everything. Of course, I'm biased because this is like what I do and what I've dedicated my life to. But brain fog, right? Really bad brain fog. It can contribute to heightened levels of anxiety and depression. We can see a lot of skin issues. So I have someone on my team who specializes in the gut-skin connection because we can get really like direct in that kind of work, and we'll see a lot of different gut infections, gut bacterial imbalances present in conditions like acne, eczema, psoriasis, thyroid issues. So like anytime someone has hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, I mean, we have to take a look at the gut because the gut influences the thyroid and then the thyroid influences the gut as well. Sometimes weight gain, I would say like a little less that's not my first go-to, but if the gut is influencing the thyroid, then we'll see the metabolic function, slow down. So there's that. Those are probably some of the most consistent things that we see in conjunction with just the chronic GI issues and the, quote unquote IBS.
So someone coming in and they're want to go and look and say, okay, what could be going on? What would be the first thing that you would look at? Would it be a stool test?
Yeah. So, I would say it kind of depends on where the client is at in their journey. We tend to see a lot of people who have done a lot of stuff already. So our client is not someone that needs to eat less processed food, right? Our client is they've done all of that. They're pretty advanced. They're well educated. And then they're I don't know what's going on. So non-negotiable, we're running functional stool testing. I see it. It was a complete game changer in my personal journey.
Which one do you love?
We run the GI map by Diagnostic Solutions Lab. Truthfully, I think there's ups and positives and negatives to all of them. I think no test is perfect. I think you really got to know how to take a look at it and kind of where it falls flat. We've learned over the years because we've been running it for probably 5 or 6 years now. But that's going to show us tons of different microbial imbalances: bacterial, fungal, parasitic infections, bacterial infections, and also maldigestion patterns. So are you actually digesting your food efficiently? Because that alone can cause chronic bloating and GI issues if you just don't have enough stomach acid or you're not producing adequate pancreatic enzymes or anything like that. So the stool test is going to give us a good kind of bit of data to work with that can inform what we do next with the client.
It really seems to me, and I just did one through Vibrant Labs. I'd always done the DSL GI map before, and I did the Vibrant Labs, which I thought was fantastic.
Awesome.
And it really strikes me that, when we do physicals, when someone goes to their doctor to get a physical, I look at it and go, I think we're doing the dumbest stuff. What if you went to the doctor to get the physical and you had a body composition test, a hand grip test, a VO2 max, a stool test, and then started to look at some other things too, and things like a fasting insulin and vitamin D, but Hippocrates was right on everything starting in the gut. If your gut's not working right, nothing else is going to work right. So I'm thinking of all the years of looking at stool tests, and I've never had someone do a stool test and have it look perfect, ever.
Exactly.
Have you?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you there. And sometimes we get that question, why isn't my doctor running this? Or my doctor doesn't even know what this is. And I'm I think once again, I could get up on my soapbox, but there's a lot of reasons kind of why that could be happening. And doctors will refer people to us. And then some people, some doctors don't think it's a joke. So it's really, truly hit or miss. But I do think, we can always find something that can be tweaked to help people feel a lot better.
Yeah. And I know the functional docs, they look at these. So, it's more the traditional. It's not their fault. It's the fault of the educational system that this just hasn't caught up. There's that 20-year rule. So someone does a stool test, and let's say that you find poor microbiome diversity, which I think is probably a pretty chronic issue out there. What are some of the things that you do to help? Why is that a problem, first of all? And then what are some of the things that you would do for that?
Yes. So we can add in a lot of targeted nutrition support to support the gut microbiome and support that gut proliferation. This is a problem because to put it simply, your good gut bacteria help to kind of weed out the bad gut bacteria and help to weed out the other microbes that can be present in the gut, things that are naturally occurring, like fungi or yeast, like archaea, like parasites. So your good gut bacteria, when they're kind of taking up house, there's going to be less room for things like fungi to overgrow. And we know that when we have an overgrowth of yeast or candida, most people would probably know it as candida overgrowth. I mean, that can cause tons of symptoms for people, recurring yeast infections, we see it a lot and very prominently in skin conditions, rashes, histamine stuff, chronic diarrhea and bloating. So your gut bacteria kind of help to maintain this ecosystem. The other thing is that certain gut microbes, will help with gut motility. Certain gut microbes will help with metabolic function. Certain gut microbes microbes like Akkermansia muciniphila, this is one that helps to maintain a strong mucosal barrier of the gut lining that helps to kind of then maintain that epithelial barrier of that gut lining. So that like cellular layer, basically like protecting us from things like leaky gut. So these gut microbes play so many different roles. And even, 20% or so of our thyroid hormone is converted in our gut microbiome. So we want a lot of these good gut microbes in the gut microbiome. How we can help support these? Yeah, lots of targeted nutrition, which is really fun and cool. And we can get a bit like specific with it depending on what you have. So when it comes to Akkermansia muciniphila, we see like very low levels of this very commonly. The research also shows that it's pretty prevalent to have low levels of this when it comes to different skin conditions like psoriasis or eczema. So once again, like really cool research that we can use. In order to bump up those levels, we can increase our intake of like polyphenol-rich foods. So think of foods that stain, things that you put on your cutting board and they leave a mark. So things like beets or raspberries. Increasing your intake of these foods can help to boost the levels of this good gut bacteria. So kind of depends on what's present, but we can bring in a lot of nutrition support here.
So what do you think of the 30 Plants a Week American Gut Project? Do you think that will do it, or do we need more than that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's great. I think like that's kind of the biggest data source that we have. So it's great to work with that. I would say a lot of our clients are too sensitive to eat a lot of these fibers. So when we've got a big like bacterial overgrowth issue or fungal overgrowth, or someone like has SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, they're going to be really reactive to fibers. So they're going to do better on like a lower fiber diet only temporarily. I am a big fan of getting in enough fiber like long term, but that's where people can get like super confused, right? Because they're like, I read this research, I'm eating all these different plants, and I'm like more bloated than ever. Yeah. I'm more gassy than ever, and I'm super uncomfortable. And that's just kind of a sign that there's like a deeper gut environment issue. But for most people, if you don't have a lot of these chronic digestive issues and you're just looking to like maintain good health and good gut health, then yeah, absolutely bring in a lot of plant diversity and just make sure you're getting in some good prebiotics as well.
And what are some of your favorite prebiotics?
Yeah, I love jicama because it's like really yummy. It's great to chop up, and you can dip it in like guacamole and hummus, and it's really refreshing, I think. So that's a great one. We can also use like dandelion greens. We can also use sunchoke or Jerusalem artichoke. Sometimes it can be helpful to get them in through like a powder. So I try to get in like personally a very diverse diet, but I also will do a scoop of a good prebiotic powder in my coffee every morning. So that can be a nice way to just kind of make sure that you're getting it in. And then also resistant starches. So like cooked and cooled potatoes, oats can be great. Make sure to add in your protein to help support your blood sugar, and different, things like that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea on the powder thing, because you look at a lot of the prebiotic foods and you're like, just haven't seen the dandelion greens out there much on the menu. Whenever I see sunchokes, though, if I'm out, they're always a yes. Mm-hmm. So let's get into leaky gut and food sensitivities. This is one. It was interesting. I first ran across this because I was actually teaching for Metametrics back when there was Metametrics, and they had a food sensitivity test. Mm-hmm. And what I saw was that the foods that were most common for people to react to were not what the elimination diet. The elimination diet back then was a very complicated thing. And I'm like, I don't see anyone reacting to the foods on this elimination diet. They're reacting to these foods. So I redid it and simplified it. And it was all based on what I was seeing with all of these people. Mm. And back then, literally people would say to me, there is no such thing as leaky gut. Mm. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I just know what I'm seeing here. So I'd love you to share, because you've already mentioned stress, which I think is the biggest culprit for leaky gut. But what you're seeing with leaky gut, are you using an IgG4 test? Like, what are you doing to identify it? How are you healing the gut? What's your protocol there?
Yeah, great question. I would say, so when we run the GI map, there is a marker, like it's called zonulin, that you can run on the GI map. But to be honest, we don't add it onto the GI map very often. It's an extra cost to the client. And my kind of like assumption is if you've got a lot of dysbiosis, we've got gut barrier issues. Like we don't really need to test for it, So also because of course the supports that we're going to be adding in they're unlikely to do like damage, right? We're not working with medications or anything like that. So yeah, I think we can obviously run into a lot of issues when we have that increased intestinal permeability. And what we see is a lot of dysbiosis, whether it's bacterial overgrowth of like histamine producing bacteria. I feel like there's a big uprise in histamine issues right now that it's kind of like making the rounds. And
don't you think they're doing this, like, we'll go back over to this, but when I look at histamine, then people are like, well, you just have to eat a low histamine diet. I go, don't we need to figure out why you got a histamine problem?
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like I'm like screaming that from the rooftop these days because anytime something kind of like hits the algorithm, then it's all over. And then people are asking us about histamine stuff. And it's very real. And we just have to get into, are you overproducing or can you not break it down efficiently or both? And usually it's a bit of both, and that can contribute. The intestinal permeability can contribute to the histamine issues as well.
Great. I want to talk histamines, oxalates, lectins, all that. But let's go back over to just the food sensitivity. So how are you looking at food sensitivity? Are you doing, and what type of testing are you doing, or are you doing testing?
Yeah, we don't run food sensitivity tests, which I know is like very different than what a lot of people's approach. My goal is for clients to be able to tolerate as many foods as possible, and we don't want to strip foods out of the diet unless they're like actively reacting to the foods, because I think it's very quickly just a downward spiral of then people are afraid to eat pineapple, and I'm just like, this is not, we don't need this. There's too much, like I would rather you be eating healthy whole foods. Yes, we want to take out the ultra processed stuff, of course. But when it comes to food sensitivities, we're on the same page. We have to get down to the reason why you're reacting to the foods in the first place. And this is always a deeper gut environment issue. The gut lining plays a huge role in this. Also gut bacterial imbalances, but also fungal imbalances, et cetera, parasitic infections, and then our digestive capacity. So, digestive capacity and our ability to actually break down our foods is a bit more in the like food intolerance space, but to the client, people lump together food sensitivities and intolerances, and they're just like, I'm reacting to this food, so what do I do? And, we can have a lot of reactions if we just can't break down the food very well. So for example, if someone feels like they're eating fats, they're eating like, avocados and coconut oil and almond butter, and they feel quote unquote sensitive to those foods, well, the underlying reason to that could be fat maldigestion, and we've got to support liver function and bile flow, because bile helps to break down those fats and absorb those fat-soluble nutrients. And this is what, like, we're seeing this very prevalently in our clients right now, like this fat maldigestion and liver picture.
Why do you think that is? Because it feels like protein digestive issues have been around for a long time. I think probably a big contributor to food sensitivities, but the fat one I think is a big deal that hasn't really been addressed.
Yeah.
Is it because people are like going keto and then recognizing it, or what's going on?
Yeah, that's a thought.
Keto's kind of past, right? You know how diet trends are. Or maybe they're carnivore. I don't know.
I know. And then people go carnivore, and then they're like, I have diarrhea. And I'm like, it's because you're eating all this fat and you can't break it down, But if you want my honest take is...
No, let's just make stuff up. Yes.
Well, I think that the birth control picture, like women being on birth control for a really long time, is playing a role.
People still doing birth control pills?
I think
After
so.
all the stuff that's come out about it? Oh my goodness.
I know. Well, and I take the stance of like, listen, you got to weigh the pros and cons with any medical intervention. You weigh the pros and cons, you do your research, and then you make your informed decision. I get really upset when people they can't make an informed decision because they've been given no information, right? For some people, still going to be worth it. For a lot of people, it won't be, So, but that use of birth control over time, that can cause some extra stress on the liver and gallbladder, and it can increase estrogen levels, which can also cause strain on the gallbladder. Women are at higher risk for gallbladder removals due to higher levels of estrogen. So I think that's playing a big role. I also think the fact that women are getting more exposure to chemicals through things like beauty products and skincare and all of that. Our liver, it's just putting our liver under, it's got to do a better job, basically. So I think there's quite a few reasons. Alcohol consumption, all of these things can be playing a role. And whenever we have a gallbladder removal, we always have to ask, how did this happen? And if you need your gallbladder removed, there was probably a liver issue that's been, brewing in there for a little while that impacted the bile, because the liver is what actually, creates the bile and produces it. So I think there's, many, many different reasons. And then stress, of course.
Yes. But it is interesting. I used to see a lot of people one-on-one. I never had any men with gallbladder issues.
Yeah.
Never. Only women.
Yeah. Well, that estrogen component, and that can be so many women. I mean, I'm kind of opening up a can of worms here, but so many women lean more estrogen dominant. And we can also, my opinion, trace that back to stress, because stress over time, increased cortisol will contribute to lower progesterone levels, which will contribute to that estrogen dominance picture. So it all kind of makes sense when we trace it back.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. So over to then with the leaky gut piece of it, what are some of the things that you like to put in place to help heal the gut back?
Yeah, the number one thing is we have to look at the microbiome piece and make sure that we're cleaning up the microbiome piece so we're not causing more irritation of that intestinal barrier. So bacterial overgrowths, infections, things like that. Then we can, of course, bring in targeted nutrient support. So sometimes L-glutamine is helpful. We can use things like zinc. Omega-3s can be great. Vitamin A can be great. Immunoglobulins are great for gut immune function. So those are some more kind of targeted strategies that we can bring in. And then, of course, supporting the regrowth and the repopulation of those good gut bugs. Once again, going back to Akkermansia, like low levels of that can contribute to intestinal permeability. So we take the approach of not just, here, take this one leaky gut supplement, right? We're like, what is everything that's contributing to this breakdown in the intestinal barrier, including the stress piece, because we know cortisol will poke holes in that mucosal layer of the gut lining. So it really takes like a whole comprehensive approach.
I do think that part of the issue we have with GLP-1, like the whole GLP-1 phenomenon, I think part of it is because we aren't producing what we need to be producing because of leaky gut. Now, I think there's some resistance too, but I think that's part of it, because you've just mentioned Akkermansia multiple times. So I think that is a piece of it. With SIBO, are you going and doing advanced testing with SIBO, or are you just able to see what you need to do off of a stool test?
Yeah, so the stool test is technically checking the large intestine. So we won't get like a positive or negative for SIBO with that test. The gold standard for diagnosing SIBO would be your breath test. Some of our clients have already gotten them. They'll come in with those from their doctor. Sometimes they'll go for them. We can, and I'm always, this will probably get a little bit of eye roll, but we can see some suggestions of patterns on the GI map that could be suggestive of an overgrowth in the small intestine. So if we see that your bacterial phyla that make up a huge portion of your gut microbiome are like really overgrown, we can, kind of make the assumption like you've just got too much gut bacteria. It's likely happening in the small intestine as well. But when we build out protocols, we're going to kind of address things in the small intestine and large intestine anyway. So sometimes it is like, and every client's a little different, honestly. Sometimes we want to send for a SIBO breath test. They go through their doctor, through their gastro, they get that done. And sometimes it's not fully necessary.
I would imagine the symptoms are probably pretty clear too.
Yeah, I mean, that chronic like upper abdominal bloating, lots of reaction to fibers, I would say that's, and anyone that feels, if you trial a low FODMAP diet and you do feel a lot better, I would say that's like a pretty clear sign that you've got some bacterial overgrowth.
Share with everybody, just in case someone doesn't know what a low FODMAP diet is, what this is and why someone would do this and how to do it.
Yep. So FODMAPs are just fermentable carbohydrates. They're actually very good for our gut microbiome because they feed our gut bacteria. But we run into a lot of issues with them when we have an overgrowth of those gut bacteria, because we're kind of like, we're feeding those bacteria that we have too much of. And those bacteria eat up these fibers and ferment them. And then that's what's going to give off gas that you'll feel as bloating and gas and pressure in your abdomen. So low FODMAP is very commonly given out by gastroenterologists or some like traditionally trained like dietitians. They'll just say go on the low FODMAP diet. The idea is to bring them back into the diet eventually. A lot of people don't. Sometimes we see people that have been on low FODMAP for like 13 years. And I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. Because it's hard, right?
Well, important point here that I think is not said enough is that the diet that will heal you is not the diet that's going to sustain your health. So they're different things. Like and that's when I look at something like the carnivore diet, if someone's super reactive, that could be a place you could go first. However, and I'd love your input on that one. It's like, I look at that. Let's go back to FODMAP, but then we can go to carnivore and talk gut microbiome, because I still can't wrap my brain around that would be the right thing long term. Okay, back over to FODMAP.
Yeah. So really the low FODMAP diet is just restricting or reducing the amount of fermentable carbohydrates that you're getting in. It gets a bit tricky. Some examples. Yeah, apples, too much broccoli. Typically people will be really reactive to like onions and garlic. You're like, I cannot tolerate those at all. But the tricky thing is that it's a lot of healthy foods. So once again, we find ourselves not wanting to eat more than like a couple pieces of broccoli or, a quarter of an avocado or something like that. And that's when you lose me, because once again, I know that it's not sustainable. So at the core, we have to address the intestinal, like bacterial overgrowth that's contributing to the basically like need for the low FODMAP diet, but also what caused that. So we always take I say we take a root cause approach to a root cause approach. So instead of going, the SIBO's causing the need for the low FODMAP diet and the bloating and the constipation and everything, we're going, well, what caused the SIBO? Motility issues it's not really a bacterial issue at its core, it's a gut motility issue. Why did we get the overgrowth in the small intestine when the large majority of our gut bacteria are in the large intestine? So, what kind of broke down to allow these bacteria to flourish and overgrow in the small intestine? It's our gut motility. And what caused that? Low stomach acid, chronic stress, low pancreatic enzyme secretion, maybe another gut infection like Helicobacter pylori. So we like to take it, a couple layers back. But yeah, low FODMAP, if you trial it and you feel a lot better, we're probably looking at a bacterial overgrowth. I wouldn't say 100%, testing's always going to be best, but that's kind of what it is in a nutshell, just reducing some of those foods.
Now, for SIBO, are you able to get rid of SIBO without having to use antibiotics?
I would say yes. Yeah. So
I've always seen everybody kind of kill it, scorch the earth with Xifaxan. So
yeah, and the research shows that it has about a 40 to 60% success rate. That's shown, right? So it doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes you need multiple rounds of it, and sometimes you get what we consider as more rare. You get the rare case where it's like someone does one round of rifaximin and then they feel a lot better, and then that's it, and they can move on with their life. That's just not who we see typically, because it doesn't address fungal overgrowth in the small intestine. It has a 40 to 60% success rate off the bat. And then sometimes these bacteria can become resistant to different antibiotics too. So, herbals can be great to utilize here.
Nice. So oxalates, histamine, lectins, there's been books written about each of these things in a way that would scare the crap out of people. Yeah. What is your take on each of these things? Are these more a sign that you have a gut dysbiosis issue that needs to be addressed? Are there any issues with specific foods, especially things like lectins, that we should be aware of? What are your thoughts about all of these things?
Yes, I also want to know your thoughts on all of these things. So this may not be popular, but I'm not a big fan of this heavy restriction. I don't think that these foods are causing a lot of issues. It's honestly not what we're seeing in our clients. We're not seeing people pull these foods and then everything gets a lot better. I do think it's typically a sign that something else is going on. So when it comes to oxalates, those that are more sensitive to oxalates, sometimes it's a mold thing. The mold toxicity is what's contributing to the sensitivity to oxalates. When it comes to lectins, I think that there's a lot of ways to reduce that exposure too. So when it's like beans and grains, like soak them, and then that reduces.
Who's not soaking? Like, how would you eat that without soaking it?
Right. So I think it can be blown out of proportion a little bit. And I really don't want people fearing healthy whole foods like black beans and quinoa and like brown rice. I don't think that's the reason for our health, our nation's health crisis.
No, it's not. I will tell you, the way I've written every book is you go through a process to figure out which foods work for you and which foods don't. And, I wrote Virgin Diet 2.0. I just was like, I was like, I don't want to publish this. I want to do something else. However, that book was like, okay, and now here's what you need to do to heal your gut, because that's the other side of it. It's like that book was identify what's causing an issue right now. It's not all of them. And then go heal your gut and see if you can get back to the point of eating all these things, which is the goal. Although I would say I don't think gluten, at least in the United States, because it's a glyphosate gluten. You can't unpack, is it the glyphosate or the gluten? You know, so that's a different one. But I think we're on the same page with this, although it can be very exciting to demonize foods. Now, I will demonize ultra-processed garbage things. There are some things, like, I'm sorry, I don't believe in everything in moderation. No, I don't. So I'm not going to go down that road. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it's helpful to demonize these foods. Yes, of course. When I say that, I mean healthy whole foods from the earth, right? So like beans and certain fruits and veggies and stuff like that. You know, you'll find these little sound bites on social where it's like oxalates are the worst foods for you. And I'm just like, this is just absolutely not helping. Or neither is oatmeal. Like oatmeal is not the worst food that you could eat.
Oatmeal's not a peasant food, people. It's fine.
Right. I'm just like, this is not it. So I agree. And I think that's where it's great that you brought that point up, because it can feel very confusing for people, because you do, like, in order to tolerate more of these foods, we do need to do some gut repairing. So it can be, I love the phrase that you use, like the diet that heals you may not be the diet that like sustains you. And I think sometimes people have a hard time really like understanding that, because it's more nuanced, but that is what we see to be the truth.
Yeah, I had a great nutrition mentor early on, and he said, the sicker you are, the farther back in your ancestry you need to go. The reality with that phrase is that, you know, I think for most of us, it's all of this ultra-processed, you know, and even the farming that's, you know, poor soil and all that kind of stuff. And so that's always made a ton of sense to me. But the obvious goal is you shouldn't have to worry. Like, I want to have some resilience so that if I do go out somewhere and I do get a seed oil in my meal, I'm not like lying down with stomach cramps in a fetal position. So that's the goal. And then the goal is to get I always say an A- on your diet. You know, it's like, you don't need to get an A+, but you do need to get an A-. And there are, I think there's a difference. One of the things I'm wish that we would be able to unpack better, because I think it's so confusing for people, is there's processing of food and there's ultra processed food. And we really need to distinguish what makes something this like dirty, ultra processed, you know, not real food, versus what just makes it convenient so that I can get my lentils. And I didn't, like, last night I made this cauliflower. I love cauliflower pilaf. So I made this cauliflower lentil pilaf, and I had these pre-steamed lentils. Easy peasy, you know, way easier than me having to deal with them. So, like, you know, but that was processed. But that's not like eating, you know, lentil chips made with some canola oil and some kind of weird sour cream fake thing on top, you know? So
yeah. Exactly. And I think that is the goal. Like, when I'm speaking to clients, I'm like, our goal is to get you to the point where you can tolerate more foods with less pain, and you can live your life. You can go on the vacation and you can have some, you know, chips and guac or whatever. And you can be okay. You know, you won't have to, you know, quote unquote, pay for it for days afterwards. Like, that's when we know. And that's what I've experienced personally. I didn't touch gluten. I didn't touch dairy. I didn't touch any for like, honestly, a decade. And I was struggling still, you know, it wasn't really doing the trick. And now I can go out for a burger and fries. I don't go out for a burger and fries every day, you know, but I can, if it's a Friday night and it's a celebration or whatever, I can get a good quality burger and some fries, and I can enjoy that, and I can wake up the next day and I'm fine. And that's what I want for, you know, our clients.
I agree. I just also would love to figure out why it is I can go to Europe and eat whatever the heck I want and never have an issue. It's like, it's always the biggest question. But I was the same. I couldn't touch dairy, but I healed my gut back. So it's like, it was like a whole world opened up. And that was what I kept trying to tell people. I go, this wasn't drop 7 foods forever. This was, you know, let's take a little break and start to heal back your gut. So I love your message. Now, you have a quiz. Tell us about the quiz that you're going to give everyone to be able to take.
Yes. So I developed a root cause assessment quiz where basically you'll answer 20 questions, and it'll give you some information in regards to like what could be the root cause of your gut and digestive issues. Now, of course, testing working with someone, this is the best way to go. However, you'll get like a PDF download afterwards, and there's a big breakdown of each and every root cause with education and best next steps there. So you can learn a lot. You can look at the signs that you have some of these underlying root causes, what to do next, what that kind of means for your health. I'm very big on education. I think it's really important for people to like understand what's going on and why and what to do about it. So this root cause assessment quiz, it's based off a digestive health assessment that we work with our clients with. So it's good stuff. And people have taken it and then messaged me being like, I then got tested and this was right. So,
oh, how cool.
Yeah.
Well, you start to get a feling like you can't explain it, where once you hear it with someone, you're like, I know what this is.
Oh,
like, I know what it is. So,
totally.
I just see the world where hopefully with AI, we'll get to a point where we won't really have to do a stool test that often anymore, because it's just not a fun thing. And it's especially hard to get a client. They're like, but the information right now is amazing. And I don't really know any other great way to really see the stuff you can find in a stool test. Like it's.
Yeah, I just see it be like, it's a total game changer, because then we're not guessing. We're not, you're not just buying like probiotics and enzymes and all of this stuff, hoping it will help.
Just make you worse too. I mean, I can't tell you how many people would come into me. I had one poor gal who, and you'll hear this and go, oh, I know what this is. Someone referred her to me and said, she just needs a cheerleader. I'm like, really? You're referring me to her and she needs a cheerleader. I'm like, so not that person. And she's like, yeah, I just try not to eat at all anymore, because every time I eat, the minute I eat, guess what happens? I get bloated. I'm like, I know what this is. And every doctor she would go to just kept giving her probiotics. And I'm like, well, that's just going to make it worse. So, that's the thing that testing can really help you do, is know that you're not crazy, and probably help you heal a lot faster instead of throwing a bunch of money in supplements that generally, if it's not targeted, could make you feel worse, not better, which is such a bummer.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, histamine issues, certain probiotics will flare you so bad. SIBO, certain probiotics will flare you. Fungal overgrowth, right? So there is a lot of nuance to it. And I wish I found it earlier on in my journey. Like, it would have saved me years of elimination diets that weren't really even getting me feeling a lot better. So I do think it can be, such a game changer and save a lot of time and money in the long run.
Yes. Agreed. All right. Well, we will put that quiz at jjvirgin.com/Hannah, and that is HANNAH. So the same both ways, right?
Yep.
There you go, Hannah. So again, grab the quiz, jjvirgin.com/Hannah. And Hannah, thank you so much. I was very excited to do a big deep dive into gut, because we haven't done one for a long while. And you were just absolutely fantastic with all of your information. So I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
Be sure to join me next time for more tools, tips, and techniques you can incorporate into everyday life to ensure you look and feel great and are built to last. Check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and my website, jjvirgin.com, and make sure to follow my podcast at subscribetojj.com so you don't miss a single episode. And hey, if you're loving what you hear, don't forget to leave a review. Your reviews make a big difference in helping me reach more incredible women just like you to spread the word about aging powerfully after 40. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Want to listen to this show ad-free? Head over to subscribetojj.com and start your ad-free experience today. Hey, JJ here, and just a reminder that the Well Beyond 40 podcast offers health, wellness, fitness, and nutritional information that's designed for educational and entertainment purposes only. You should not rely on this information as a substitute for, nor does it replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have any concerns or questions about your health, you should always consult with a physician or other healthcare professional. Make sure that you do not disregard, avoid, or delay obtaining medical or health-related advice from your healthcare professional because of something you may have heard on the show or read in our show notes. The use of any information provided on the show is solely at your own risk.